Okay, pardon me. Let's continue on with summertime. So I didn't hear back from you on any of this as far as that one tricky chord there on that B, the one that comes up here on 7 6 4. So I'm assuming that went okay. Looking at the next sheet, let me play it up to there so we have the intro. So basically when you're playing this song, you can go back and forth between this E minor and this B7 as many times as you want till you finally get to that B7 augmented and you start playing the melody notes there. Recall that the melody notes are indicated by that little upside two-sided triangle there. If there's a such thing as a two-sided triangle. I think you know what I mean. But you can just vamp on this. And that's not a bad thing to practice, just being able to find those bass notes and go back and forth on those two chords. And you finally get there. Here's that chord. Okay, then we're on to the next sheet, and it continues on the same. We have that E minor with the strum, the B7. Minor. Now, in that second measure on that second line there, you'll notice that we're going from the E minor, and then when we go to the B7, we're going to do the strum part first and then play the bass note as the last note in that measure. I'm talking about sheet 2, second measure. So I'm going to play it from the first measure on sheet 2. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then the bass note. And the reason we're doing it that way is because that bass note happens to be the melody note. So you notice it has that little triangular shape above it. So that's why we're making that little change there in that measure. I'll play that again from the first measure in sheet 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, bass note, which happens to be the melody note. Okay? Then, so let me point something else out. When we're on sheet 2, when we're going back and forth between the E minor and the B7, of course that middle finger stays right there on that B note as we're going through both of those chords. We switch to the B7, do the strum, play the bass note. Now we get to the G chord. That B note stays there, that middle finger stays there, and we just put down the ring finger to get the bottom 3 notes of that small G chord. We're playing those 3 notes, 3, 2, open. Then we're going to take our first finger and put it on the 2nd fret, and we're just playing those 2 notes. And then we play the open D again. So that sounds like 1, 2, and Now we get to the E minor chord again, and so still that middle finger hasn't moved. Then a strum. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind for that entire line of page 2. That middle finger for that entire line, for those 3 measures, never leaves that 2nd fret. So we have, going back to that first measure again on that page 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, strum, G, and then a strum. I'm going to play it from that G again. 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So observe that, and that helps you get through that line if you realize that the finger there never has to move. Another thing I wanted to point out, when you're vamping on this E minor to B7, anytime you're not trying to pick out a melody note, which is why I put those little triangular shapes, anytime you're doing this strum, you don't really have to be concerned about which notes you hit when you're trying to do the bass part down here as opposed to the strum in the upper register. It doesn't really matter what notes you pick as long as you're picking from the low notes to the high notes. So like if I go back to the beginning and I'm just doing that vamp, as long as I have that flavor to it where I'm going low to high, I'm not really concerned about exactly which notes that I play. Only when I get to the melody notes that are indicated by the triangular shapes, that's when I want to try to be precise. Okay? So once again, now going back to sheet number 2, after that little diversion, I'm going to play sheet number 2 again, starting at the first measure. So here, that first one is a melody note, so I am trying to pick those 3 strings, followed by the strum. That's a melody note, so I want to pick that 2nd fret on that A string, then the strum. And once again, on those strums, it doesn't really matter how many of those strings you hit, as long as you get that sense of low to high. And then I have measure number 2, where we change it up a little bit, go to that strum, then pick that 2nd fret. Now I'm on the G. So there, that's a melody note, so I really want to try to play just those 3 notes. This is a melody note, so I want to try just to get those 2. The open D is a melody note, so I want to try to get that exactly. Then we're back to the E minor. Both of those are melody notes, but then a strum. Now I'm going on to the A2, so from that, it's pretty simple. I just drop from my E minor, those 2 fingers just come down to the A2, and we have 2 melody notes. So I want to strum those in a 4, pick that 2nd fret on the G string. Then I have a bass note. I have the 3rd fret of the A string. I'm just going to grab that with my pinky. So I'm going to go. It's a little awkward, but very doable. And then I have the B7 augmented. And that is a melody note there. Right when we first get to that B7, that open G note is a melody note. And then I have a filler note, which is just that 1st fret of the D string in the chord. And then I'm back to the E minor. And then I'm just back to my vamp. So I'm going to play that 2nd sheet again from the top. 1, 2, filler here, chord, chord, note, G chord, strum, A2, bass note, chord with that melody note there. That open G is the melody note. The first fret is just a filler note, and then finally back to the E minor. And you can vamp on that as many times as you want, and then when you finally end the song, just strum an E minor. So let me take it back to the beginning, play it all the way through. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play that vamp, not exactly as written on your sheet 1. I'm going to play it quite a few more times until I decide to come in with the melody where that B7 augmented is. But I can play that E minor to that B7 as many times as I like. Nice and slow. Then I finally get to the B7. Here we go. Sliding up. Back down. Sheet 2. Strum, strum, G chord. Once again, if you were going to play the song again, you could just vamp back and forth between this E minor to the B7, and then come in wherever you want at that B7 augmented. Sliding up. Back down. Bass note, and then back to the vamp. And you vamp until you want to end it, then end it on the E minor. Okay, so there you go. That's an arrangement of Summertime, and we'll get back to the improvisation after that. But I think if you have the song and you can get the sense of the song in your head, it allows you to approach the improvisation a little bit more intelligently because you have a better feel for the song and where the chords are changing in the song. And you want to be able to hear that in your head. You want to be able to hear those chord changes going by. while you're improvising in order to really do it effectively. So see what you can do with that. On page 1 on the A minor, I noticed third line down where we have that A minor. What I have tabbed there is actually an A2. Doesn't really matter, but when you get to that third line, that A minor, if you actually just want to put your hand on an actual A minor, so what that would mean is that open open, where you have the 2 open open, it would actually be 2 1 open, 2 1 open for those strums. You can actually play the A minor like that. I have it tabbed out so that first finger isn't down. Either way works, but if you want to play the A minor there, the actual A minor, just to hear how it sounds. In the one case, you'd have this with the A2, like that, go into the C, or if you had the actual A minor with that finger down, first finger, to the C, and then sliding up. Okay, it's not a big deal. I just thought that I would point that out. Okay, let me know how you're doing on this, and we'll talk to you later.